the future of music. First commercially sold in the 1880s, vinyl records are now coming back into popularity, with their sales being at an all-time high since their drop in the 80s. People's love for owning music from their favourite artists and growing large collections have resurged in the 2000s, with record sales climbing again, and records even outselling CDs since 2021. Now, in 2023, you can find vinyl still high in popularity, collecting fans from a newer generation and maintaining those who have collected vinyls for years.
I've owned the store for 6 years now. I moved up here to open a cafe and things happened that stopped it going ahead, and then at the same time the owner of the original record store was selling, and literally after a 20-minute phone call I decided, yep, I'll buy it, and now we just turned 6. I was probably about 10 years of age, and I had a cousin of mine that was 10 years older than me, and we used to go over his house, and to avoid saying the rosary with our parents, we would go downstairs and listen to records, and he had an awesome record collection. He had AC/DC and Jimi Hendrix and the Rolling Stones, and basically we'd stay there, pump it as loud as we can to annoy the parents, and that pretty much started it, just physically holding the records. I remember him having the Australian Dirty Deeds album stuck on his cabinet where he had his records, and it was like Angus Young sticking the fingers up and Bon, and it was just an amazing album cover, and that sort of stuck with me, you know, all the way through my childhood. A lot of people ask me to DJ, and pretty much my style of DJing, it's very much just fading in and out. It's not remixing, scratching, or, you know, up in the tempo. It's literally playing good songs. So my personal collection is pretty varied. A lot of it is music from my youth, so what I grew up listening to, so it's, you know, rock and grungy and punk sort of stuff. When I opened this shop 6 years ago, very few under 20s were buying records, whereas now it's the 15 to 25 year old age bracket are probably my biggest customer base.
It kind of started out when I was 13. I got my first record. It was an AC/DC record that my dad gave me. Listening to a record was something we do very rarely, and it was like something special. It's kind of nostalgic to have like my own collection now and just chuck it on whatever, because it just takes me back to then with him and that time, like putting on a record. It was just special. So it's just like always special now. And I didn't really think of it much, but as I more got into music, I appreciated the fact of actually physically owning music. Because when you listen to it online, it's like it's there, it's digital, but when you have it physically there in front of you, it's just a different feel. I mean, I guess it's kind of rewarding to get an old record than getting a new pressing. It's like the Beatles. It feels so nostalgic. You're listening to an older artist from that era and getting an original pressing of that artist is pretty rewarding, because one, the value of it is expensive, but also the nostalgia factor. And being someone who loves music, it's so nice listening to just an old record that you know that someone's looked after, and then now it's in your hands and it just has history with it. Collecting vinyls has just increased my appreciation for music as well.
It's such a good thing to sell a record, you know, when you know, oh, they're buying their first record, and you're looking, what are they going to buy as their first? And you get really happy if they're buying, you know, a classic record. So it's a positive. I think the more people buying records, being a record store is the best thing.
I play the piano and guitar, and I love listening to music, and I think getting into vinyls is the next step forward to showing my passion for music. The only two I have are this one from my favourite band, 21 Pilots, and this Toto record, which I really like, that I found in an op shop one time. Op shops have a lot of just old vinyls, and sometimes you can just find like a hidden gem of a band you really like. Another way I find vinyls is just by band merchandise. If I was going to look for more vinyls, I would probably go online.
The internet is both a positive and a negative when it comes to records and record sales. You run the risk of it not arriving, it taking a week, a month, or simply they don't supply it to you. My job is a lot easier because there are online databases. I can sort of gauge an interest by going online and seeing the online market, whether that is Discogs or eBay.
So the record that was the hardest to find and buy was probably this one, the Tame Impala Currents Collector's Edition. This album, such a journey. So I put like an ad, I think, out, and I was like, does anyone have this album? I'm desperate, I really want this. I'm a huge fan of Tame Impala. Someone commented down the bottom, they're like, have you tried Discogs? And I was like, Discogs? So I did a bit of Googling, and I found out there's an entire marketplace just for records. So basically my eBay, it's like heaven. I had different sellers from across the globe, and I found someone selling this album for $200 sealed, brand new in Australia. And impulsively I just bought it, and I don't regret buying it. The journey of it is quite fun. I never really, when I'm going in store, I never really know what I'm looking for. I tend to look at what artist I like, and then sometimes I go on Spotify and I go, oh, I like this album, I'm gonna get it on vinyl. Because it's not really good to get an entire album on vinyl if you only like a few songs. It's kind of wasted.
A lot of albums no longer have like interludes, no longer have like breaks in the middle and like endings, because those songs just don't get played when it's on Spotify. No one's ever going to listen to them, but if you have the physical copy, that will always be cemented within the album and be immortalized and follow the creator's vision of what the album was meant to sound like. I do listen to a lot of music digitally on Spotify and YouTube, but I think I'm going to start transitioning to physical copies, because I can just imagine maybe 10 years in the future when I still have some of these vinyls and I'll still be able to play them and listen to them just like I did maybe like today.
I used to only listen to like songs selectively through playlists, and see that's where online it's kind of annoying. You can just press whatever song you want, but artists, they make albums for a reason. And they make them in a particular order for a reason. And I feel like listening to them through vinyl just so rewarding, because it just slides across to each song. And you listen to it fully. I think when I first got really into records, that's when I fully got into listening to albums from start to finish.
So if you're starting out in the vinyl world, you have to ask yourself one very important question. Do I spend money on the best hi-fi equipment and potentially not have a big collection, or do you build a collection and then when you have a decent collection, purchase a sound system?
Listening to vinyl for me is important, as being a musician and being someone who cherishes music. And I feel like it's helped me appreciate music more, because I'm just listening to the album all the way through. I'm like, oh sweet, that side's ended, flip it over, next side. And it's kind of like a journey, and you just sit there and you get lost. I don't feel like I ever get bored listening to records.
I do plan on eventually creating songs that I could one day publish and maybe even get onto a vinyl myself. That's a very long-term goal, but that would be the dream.